Welcome to the Insider by DFIN. I'm Jeff Catt. I'm the Senior Vice President of ActiveDisclosure here at DFIN, and I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit about how Opthea has leveraged ActiveDisclosure to really improve their financial reporting. Joining me today is Dr. Megan Baldwin, who is the CEO and Managing Director of Opthea. Joining her is also Karen Adams, who's the Vice President of Finance and the Company Secretary of Opthea Limited. Dr. Baldwin has over 20 years experience in research and developing therapies for cancer and ophthalmic indications. She joined Opthea in 2008. And I'll just remind everybody that Opthea is a biotech company developing biologistics for serious retinal diseases, and they're headquartered in Australia. Karen joined Opthea in 2021, and she leads the company in corporate governance, financial processes and controls, as well as financial reporting, which is where she leverages ActiveDisclosure. We'll also note that Opthea is dual listed, and they're on both the Australia Exchange as well as NASDAQ. Megan, if you kind of just shared a little bit more about overall what Opthea's vision is and what you guys are trying to accomplish.
Thanks very much for that introduction, Jeff. Yeah, so Opthea is a biotech company. We have a new therapy in development, which is currently in the final stages of clinical development, which is phase 3, that we're developing for the treatment of wet age-related macular degeneration. So wet AMD, as it's called, is the leading cause of blindness in people over the age of 50. So as people age, there's this type of blindness that's associated with that aging process, which can occur very rapidly, and it's associated with a very chronic and often a very rapid loss of visual acuity. Locally in the center of the visual field, typically, and it occurs as I said, as people age. It is a disease that is very prevalent. It is increasing in its prevalence as the population ages, and obviously it's associated with a really profound reduction in the quality of life for patients. Right now, there are standard of care treatments that are available for patients which can slow down the progression of the disease, and in some patients does actually improve their vision for a period of time. But what we find is that those currently available therapies only improve visual acuity to an extent. There's still further room for patients to actually have an improvement in their vision. And that's very important because the current therapies right now are very limited. They essentially all work through the same mechanism of action and in the same way. So a physician who wants to treat their patient optimally is really restricted in what they can offer that patient. And the visual acuity benefit that they'll actually receive is typically not sufficient for them to have a restoration of their vision to the extent that they can undertake their routine daily activities. I'll give you an example of that. About 2/3 of patients that go on to therapy fail to achieve visual acuity benefit that actually enables them to drive a car. So you can see that there's a really an existing unmet medical need, and that's where Opthea fits in with their new therapy. OPT302 is really to be used on top of what is already available in order to give patients a better response and to have better visual acuity.
So I just want to make sure I heard that last bit specifically. So you guys are, if I heard it right, you guys are enhancing what's already out there to create a more complete almost solution for those that are suffering.
Absolutely. Yes. So, it's often the case when you think about disease that having more than one drug available for patients and actually administering more than one drug provides a broader blockade of those disease mechanisms. And that's exactly where we fit. We have a drug that hits a validated pathway. We know that it's involved in the disease process. Patients will come into the clinic, they receive their current standard of care injection, which is typically an injection into the eye, which blocks one type of factor that's involved in making the vessels grow at the back of the eye. We hit 2 other factors, which together with the current treatments results in a broader blockade and a better impact on visual acuity so the patient can see better.
So typically phase 3 then takes how long to you guys get sort of approval to move forward?
Yeah, so look, our trial will take somewhere between 3 to 4 years, but we're already, a couple of years into it.
Oh, that's great.
The length of how long a phase 3 takes is highly dependent on what disease you're trying to treat and how you've designed your study. For us, the important thing is that we recruit patients, and every patient that comes into the trial is dosed for 12 months. And then once all of those patients have been dosed for 12 months, we're in a position to read out what is called top-line data. And that's a key milestone for the company. That's where we will understand how well the drug has worked and how well the drug has actually improved visual acuity in those patients that have received our drug on top of standard of care compared to all of those patients that just received the standard of care alone. And so that's a 12-month dosing period, and we expect to report out that data towards the end of 2024.
That's exciting to say the least. That's incredible. So I think you kind of talked about this already, Megan, but I'm just curious. I just want to make sure that we kind of cover it. So it sounds like what Opthea is doing is it's really making sure that you guys are looking at the overall industry, and then you've identified a gap in the treatments that are available today, and you guys are ultimately filling that gap. Do I have that fairly?
That's exactly right. I mean, there are a lot of players in the wet AMD space that are all kind of competing for market share around producing improved versions of what we already have. What Opthea has identified is that there is a gap in terms of therapies that target the known pathway that drive the disease. We have the intellectual property around that. We've got a fantastic asset which blocks that part of the pathway. We know it's to date safe and well tolerated when we inject it into the eye. And we've also gone into our phase 3 studies with a phase 2 result, which demonstrated superior benefit for patients. And that really differentiates our approach from almost all of the other wet AMD drug development companies that are out there.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. So as I think about the journey that Megan's been discussing, along the lines of that journey, you guys listed on the NASDAQ, and then what comes to that is a whole different set of requirements that go beyond sort of the clinical testing. You start thinking about your disclosure requirements and things of that nature. So can you talk a little bit about how disclosure reporting has changed since you've joined the team, and some of the tools that you've been able to leverage to help you with that as well?
Yeah, so you have the standard, which we're used to in Australia with the ASX, but then you go onto the NASDAQ, and it's in a whole different level. You've got the edgerization and all of that. So active disclosure for a lean team, which we have here in Australia, this is just an added level of assurance using active disclosure because it's a standardized platform which we leverage on. It basically helps with best practice reporting. We can set it all up, and we know that when you start reporting on this system, you have the added benefit of the team that's done on financials, that we've got that backup when we do the reporting. So it enables us to have that additional layer of support.
And Karen, that's helpful. We see that we're fortunate that we work with a fair amount of biotech companies globally, and what you just said we hear quite frequently, and that is very lean team. Certainly the security of recognizing that it's not just you guys driving it, but knowing that you have that support team there behind you as well, especially as we continue to see regulatory changes occurring as well, including more coming this year. For
yeah,
sure.
So also the ease of the platform in that it uses both not only our Excel platform but Word, and we can actually reiterate it, have our legal team come in and review it as well. It's that benefit of having multiple different layers of resources, being able to access it and review and assist with that process. The technology is great.
Our investors, as every company, every biotech company and every other company out there knows, you've got to keep them updated, and you have to be able to leverage a platform that enables you to do that, on a efficient and a fast basis, basically, because as we're made aware of material information, we have an obligation to actually inform our investors about that. We take that very seriously. And in the world of biotech and reporting out results of clinical trials, for example, once we unblind or unmask the data and we've got time to analyse that, we can't hold on to that. We've got to get it out there, and using a platform with ActiveDisclosure enables us to do that in an efficient way, make changes as is needed also, as needed as well. So it's become very important for us to have those efficient systems working in the background so that as a company, we can get the information out there, which is ultimately what our investors are looking at.
Absolutely. And Karen, can you remind me when you first joined, at that point in time, had Opthea been using ActiveDisclosure at that point, or you guys were just sort of using the classic Word and Excel previously?
So I joined in May and we had a reporting deadline of June. So no, it was newly for Opthea that year. I had previously, in a previous role, used ActiveDisclosure. So that was my niche of knocking on Megan's door and said, hey, let me join. So, yeah, so I knew the product well and said, yep, I can come in and run this. And that was my selling point to come into Opthea, because I knew ActiveDisclosure well. I knew how to run it. So, yes, so that was why I was confident. I knew the product, knew that how it worked, and was confident in getting this up and running. So it was the first year of using it, getting it filed and getting the process done. So I had every confidence I could do it, knowing the team that I'd worked with Donnelly previously. So no, Opthea hadn't used it prior to that year. And since then, because we're a foreign filer, we right. do DF and 6Ks. So at the moment, easier. That won't always be the case. We will actually eventually down the line have to move into the 6Ks and the SAN views, but that's down the track. So sure. We'll grow, and I'm assuming Donnelly will help us move that way. Without
a doubt. And we thank you for thinking of us as you came on board for sure. And I would say that along with that, our goal is to make sure that we're continuing to expand those capabilities as you guys have different requirements as well. And the last thing I'll say is it's so interesting to hear that from you, Karen, and that one of the things that we've been incredibly fortunate on is that this biotech community, whether you're in Australia or San Diego or Boston as examples, is very tight. So we find people like you that do, find different opportunities at different companies. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
And I must admit that the time zone support has been fantastic from you guys. Didn't matter where, because being in Australia and having the different time zones has been fantastic too.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Keep an eye on Opthea. We've got a really interesting asset. We're differentiated, and I think we're the only company right now that has a new potential therapy that's really going to make a difference for patients with what is a very devastating eye disease that right now really has limited treatment options. So we really want to change up that for physicians and for patients and make a difference to vision in patients that otherwise wouldn't be able to maintain their routine daily activities and go about their daily lives. So look out for us. We're looking to report our phase 3s towards the end of 2024, and we're very much advanced in our phase 3 development.
That's terrific. Karen, anything from your end?
No, just if you're looking for a reporting system, make sure you understand what you want to report, have a clear path, know your team, what you're working with, and the access which you want to provide your team, and work with Donnelly and have a clear working path with what you want to get and achieve.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words, and we wish you the best of luck on this mission. It's incredible work for it. So thank you guys for the time and the insights today. Really appreciate it very much from that perspective, Dr. Baldwin and Karen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This has been The Insider by DFIN, and we look forward to seeing you next time.